in mind, those praying salah, brothers are requested to come closer. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا صدق الله العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذرياته. Respected brothers and elders and mothers and sisters listening at home, the purpose of gathering today is for a very noble cause indeed, and that is to try and understand what our beloved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell you and I through the glorious Quran. Many of us seated here, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years of our lives may have passed, and we may not even understand, or the thought might not even have come to ourselves that we should understand at least the meaning of Surah Fatiha, which we read and we hear every single day at least 5 times. So my dear respected friends, the purpose of these gatherings is to connect ourselves with the glorious Quran. The famous rights of the glorious Quran. We hear time and time again that the Quran has 3 rights upon us, and we need to fulfill those 3 rights of the glorious Quran. The first right of the Quran is that we read the Quran. So every single day we should make it a target that we should stipulate some time for the recitation of the glorious Quran. This is the first right of the Quran. Recite the Quran with tajweed properly as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent it down. And my dear respected friends, for this there has to be regularity. Every single day, even if it is 1 ruku', let it be 1 ruku'. Let us start somewhere, but let us devote even 5 minutes or 10 minutes every single day to recite the glorious Quran. This is the first right of the Quran. So the month of Ramadan has just passed. A month or 2 has passed after the month of Ramadan. We should think and we should do muhasabah. That in the month of Ramadan, I used to recite X amount of pages. I used to recite X amount of siparas. But since the month of Ramadan has finished and the month of Shawwal has also finished, what is the state of my tilawah? Do I even get the tawfiq to open the Quran in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? When do I get the tawfiq to open the Quran? So the first right of the Quran is that we recite the Quran regularly. And the second right of the Quran, for which we have gathered today, is to understand the Quran. This is also a right of the Quran. Seldom do we think this is a right of the Quran. We read the Quran, but then we stop there. Understanding the message of the Quran is also a right of the Quran. And this is why such gatherings are held, so that we can, not if not the entire Quran, at least some portions of the Quran, at least some messages of the Quran we can understand, and then we can bring into our life. A famous scholar, he gave a very amazing example of our situation and understanding the Quran. He says that if we had a friend, a beloved, a relative living in a foreign country, speaking a foreign language. Let's say, for example, someone very close to us, our beloved, our relative, our friend, they've moved to a foreign country and now they've started speaking that foreign language. And now after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they contact you, they email you, but the email and the message is in the foreign language which you do not know. What will be your condition? Will you think that, okay, he sent me the email, he sent me the message, it's nice of him, the thought counts, it doesn't matter what's inside the letter. Rather, at the first possible opportunity, we will try to get this letter, to get this email, and to get this message translated, to understand the contents of the letter, exactly what our beloved is writing to us, exactly what they demand from us. So similarly, the glorious Quran in front of us, which we recite every single day, is also a letter and a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pages upon pages, ayat upon ayat, is giving you and I messages. However, our condition is that we have never thought about understanding what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. So this is a love letter from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a message of concern, a great letter from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trying to tell us? This is what the purpose of these gatherings are. This is why it is very important that whatever time we can devote, if not the entire session, 10, 15 minutes, we come, participate, and we take back something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. Because, my dear respected friends, it's common knowledge, we hear time and time again, just by opening a translation of the Quran, our needs will not be sufficed. Many a times, you'll open the translation of the Quran, a mere translation, and you'll be stuck. What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trying to say here? This ayah, the apparent, it doesn't make much sense. Because the glorious Quran is revealed in Arabic. And the Arabic language is a unique language. It's a very, very unique language. There are many, many hidden phrases, hidden notes, hidden codes. To understand a simple verse, so many things behind the scenes are done to understand one ayah. This is why what is needed is tafseer, commentary. And even tafseer, I can't sit here and give my own tafseer. I can't pull it out from my pocket. The tafseer has to be in line with what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned, what the scholars and the experts in this field have mentioned. All those things have to be kept in mind, and one can only speak according to the guidelines given. So this is to understand the Quran. And now once we've understood the Quran, this will automatically, or should automatically, lead you to the third step. And that is to implement the teachings of the Quran, to practice upon the Quran. So now if you're going to skip the second part, you're not going to understand what the Quran is saying. How are you going to implement? How are you going to practice? You'll only be able to practice upon the Quran if you understand what the Quran is saying. And this middle point, it's so important, it's so magical, that if a person is not practicing the Quran, he's not reading the Quran. If he understands what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him, this will automatically create a zeal for step 1, reading the Quran, and step 3, practicing upon the Quran. This is why it's very important we understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing us with, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. So the surah which we will inshallah take and discuss in detail is Suratul Kahf. Suratul Kahf, in the 15th juz, okay, the 18th chapter of the glorious Quran, a famous surah which we all recite on Friday, or we should be reciting on Friday. This is a great surah, a very amazing surah. The name of this surah is Suratul Kahf, which means the surah of the cave. Kahf in Arabic means cave. Now, many a times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the surah, is named after a portion of the entire surah. So not the entire surah is going to be about some cave. The surah is very, very long. So only a couple of pages, a page or two, is about the cave. The rest of the story has many different lessons, many different stories, many different things. So this is a concept, Tasmiyatul Kul bi Ismil Juz, that the entire surah is given the name because of a part of the surah. Okay, prime example, Suratul Baqarah, the biggest surah of the Quran, almost 2.5 juz, 2.5 siparas. The mention of the Baqarah, the cow, is only one page of the Quran, of one page of the surah. But the entire 2.5 siparas, the entire 2.5 juz are named after that one incident of the cow. So similarly, in the beginning of the surah, the story of the cave and the people of the cave will be mentioned, but because of this, the entire surah has been given the name of Suratul Kahf, the surah of the cave. And this surah, if you see, it is written that Makkiyah. This surah is Makkiyah, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent this surah down, has revealed this surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent this surah prior to Hijrah. So all those verses and all those surahs which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down prior to Hijrah, they are Makki surahs. And all those surahs, all those verses which have been sent down and revealed after Hijrah to Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara, they are known as Madani surah. So this is a Makki surah, i.e. revealed prior to Hijrah. Now, the virtues of the surah. Okay, the virtues of the surah. This is also something very important. As a prelude, as an introduction to the surah, why is this surah so great? Why have I chosen this surah? Why is this surah so virtuous? Many things have been mentioned, but I'll try to highlight 3 or 4 things which will be helpful for our day-to-day life and our ma'amulat and what we will be receiving after reciting Suratul Kahf. First and foremost, in one hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to the Sahaba, "Ala adullukum ala suratin shayya'aha sab'una alfa malak." Shall I not tell you of a surah? Shall I not reveal unto you a surah? When this surah was revealed, 70,000 angels came along with this surah. 70,000 farishte is surah ko lekar aaye. 70,000 angels came down with this surah. As like a famous person, he walks and an entourage walks behind him. Similarly, Suratul Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it, and as an entourage in respect and honor of this surah, 70,000 angels also came down with this surah. Thereafter, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Mala'a 'idhamuha ma bayna as-sama'i wal ard." The greatness of this surah has filled the empty space between the heavens and the earth. That's how great this surah is. Thereafter, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Man qara'aha yawm al-jumu'ati." Whosoever recites this surah on the day of Friday, okay, we all know it is our ma'amul, it is our practice that we recite Suratul Kahf every single Friday. And if we are not doing so, let us start from this Friday. Okay, it'll only take 15-20 minutes anytime from Maghrib Salah Thursday until Maghrib Salah Friday. Take out 15 minutes, 20 minutes and recite this Suratul Kahf. The virtues are coming. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, غُفِرَ لَهُ, number 1, غُفِرَ لَهُ إِلَى الْجُمُعَةِ الْأُخْرَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive all his minor sins from one Friday to the next Friday. وَزِيَادَةُ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ, and an extra 3 days of sins will be forgiven. So a total 10 days of forgiveness just by reciting Suratul Kahf. Thereafter, وَأُعْطِيَ نُورًا يَبْلُغُ السَّمَاءِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him nur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him such light which will reach the skies. And the muhaddithin mentioned that this light could refer to the light which a person will be given to on the day of Qiyamah. It could refer to the light of firasa, meaning an individual will be granted spiritual light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with which he will be able to judge which is right and which is wrong. He will not need a scholar to tell him this is right and this is wrong. His conscience, his inside will direct him towards the right and will keep him away from the wrong. So this is nur. This is a light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is radiance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thirdly, وَوُقِيَ فِتْنَةَ الدَّجَّالِ. The greatest, one of the greatest things which Suratul Kahf delivers. And this is that by reciting Suratul Kahf on Friday, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save you from the fitna of Dajjal. The fitna of Dajjal, the greatest fitna ever to come onto the face of this earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by reciting Suratul Kahf, will save you from that fitna of Dajjal. And something very, very, amazing, which our respected Shaykh and teacher Hazrat Maulana Salim Sahib, he always tells us. He says that if Suratul Kahf has the power to save you from the greatest of fitnas, which is Dajjal. If Suratul Kahf can save you from the greatest fitna, which is Dajjal, then most definitely all those fitnas. Okay, we see many fitnas nowadays, many different types of fitnas. So if Suratul Kahf can repel the fitna of Dajjal, then most definitely Suratul Kahf has the power to save you from all those fitnas and trials which are lesser in degree than the fitna of Dajjal. So we see many, many fitnas. Okay, we ask, how do we save ourselves? How do we save ourselves from the traps of shaitan, from the traps of all these Dajjali influences? How do we save ourselves? The cure is we recite Suratul Kahf every single Friday. Another narration mentioned in Muslim, Abu Dawud and many other books, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, now this is making it easier. So this hadith says you got to recite the entire surah. The next hadith, it makes it even easier. Okay, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, Man hafidha 10 ayatin min awwali suratil kahfi usima min ad-dajjal. Whoever in one narration memorizes, in one narration recites. So in one riwayah man qara'a, in one riwayat man hafidha. So whoever memorizes or whoever recites just the opening 10 verses of Suratul Kahf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save him from Dajjal. So you don't even need to recite in the beginning, okay, if you can't recite the whole surah, at least recite the first 10 ayats, which is literally a 1 minute job, a 2 minute job. So if you can't recite the entire surah, sometimes you're very, very busy, or it's Asr time on Friday, there's only 5 minutes left for Maghrib, 10 minutes left for Maghrib, you remembered I've not recited Suratul Kahf, at least recite the first 10 verses. And a step further, like the famous narration, it doesn't just say recite, it says who memorizes. Therefore, we should all make it a point, if we are not already huffaz, then at least try to memorize, like we say memorize Surah Yasin, try to memorize the first 10 verses of Suratul Kahf, because some narrations indicate that safety from Dajjal is only when you memorize those 10 verses. Memorize and recite. Another narration, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, mentioned by Ibn Kathir, he says that whoever recites Suratul Kahf Yawm al-Jumu'ah, on the day of Friday, فَهُوَ مَعْصُومٌ إِلَى ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ مِّن كُلِّ فِتْنَةٍ. And this is this hadith also assists on that point we mentioned, that Dajjal can save you, Suratul Kahf can save you from all other trials which are smaller than Dajjal. So this hadith says that whoever recites Suratul Kahf on a Friday, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save him from all types of fitnas, all types of trials for the next week. Okay, for the next week, Allah will save him from all types of fitnas. And if it so happens that in those 7 days, in that week, where he has recited Surah Al-Kahf, Dajjal emerges, Dajjal comes out, then وَإِنْ خَرَجَ الدَّجَّالُ عُصِمَ مِنْهُ. If Dajjal was to emerge after he's recited Surah Al-Kahf on that Friday, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save him from Dajjal and the traps of Dajjal and the fitna of Dajjal. Once Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he used to frequently mention Dajjal, okay, as a sign of Qiyamah, to impress upon the Sahaba and to give the message of how great this fitna will be. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam once said, إِن يَخْرُجْ وَأَنَا فِيكُمْ فَأَنَا حَجِيجُهُ. If Dajjal was to emerge whilst I am present, then nobody needs to worry. I will suffice Dajjal on your behalf. I'll be enough for him. I'll finish him off on my own. No one will have to worry about Dajjal. However, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam indicated that he's not going to emerge whilst I'm alive, he's going to emerge after I leave this world. So وَإِن يَخْرُجْ وَلَسْتُ فِيكُمْ. If Dajjal emerges after I've left this world, فَامْرُؤٌ حَجِيجُ نَفْسِهِ. Then it's every man for himself. Then you will have to fight and fend Dajjal yourself. And how to save yourself from Dajjal? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said the same thing, مَنْ أَدْرَكَهُ مِنْكُمْ. Whoever finds that he is in the era of Dajjal, فَلْيَقْرَأْ عَلَيْهِ فَوَاتِحَ سُورَةِ الْكَهْفِ. Recite the opening verses of Surah Al-Kahf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save him. In another narration, the wording is, Allah will save him from that trial. Okay, someone may think, how can you be saved if you're in that era, if you're in that Dajjali period, if you're there when Dajjal arrives, how is it possible to save yourself? So one narration goes to that extent, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam gives the similitude that فَتَكُونُ عَلَيْهِ بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا كَمَا كَانَتِ النَّارُ عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. That just as Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, the famous incident, was thrown into the fire, and then amidst the fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transformed that fire into a blissful, cool garden. Similarly, when you're in that hot era of Dajjal, that testing era of Dajjal, if you're firm on your iman, if you recite Surah Al-Kahf, just as the fire became a cool garden for Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make that trial of Dajjal just as easy for you. So these are the virtues of Surah Al-Kahf, and why I elaborated and spent some time on them is that this is the main thing. Like I said, the purpose is not just to go through the tafsir. The purpose is to take something back in our lives, to take something to practice upon. So if we take anything from today, it is this message that we need to bring the recitation of Surah Al-Kahf into our lives so that we are saved from the fitna of Dajjal, and we're saved from all other trials and all other fitnas which are smaller in degree in comparison to Dajjal. And the last thing I'd like to mention in today's session is why this surah was revealed. Okay, why this surah was revealed. Some verses, some surahs, they have a reasoning that why this surah was mentioned, known as the Sababun Nuzul or the Shan-e Nuzul. So the incident behind Surah Al-Kahf is that a couple of Quraysh, disbelievers from Mecca, after the prophethood of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they were very confused. They were very confused about the nubuwah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that is he a true prophet? What is this Akhirat, Jannah, Jahannam? What is all this? They've never heard of this before. So what they did, two individuals, Nadar bin Harith and Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, they went to the Yahud, they went to the Jews of the time, because they were learned. Okay, they used to recite they were ulama of the Torah. They had read the scriptures of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, so they were well learned, well educated. So they thought, let's go to the rabbis or the ulama of the Yahud and let's question them, okay, about this prophet who has emerged and his message. So they went to the Yahud and they asked about this final prophet. So the Yahud said, look, we'll give you some signs. We'll give you a few signs. If he tells you the answer to these three questions, which we will tell you, then he is a true prophet, because this is mentioned in the books. And if he fails to deliver the answer to these 3 questions, then unfortunately he's not a prophet. Then you do as you want with him. So the 3 questions were, number 1, what is the incident of those individuals that fled their home village and took shelter in a cave to save their iman? Number 1. Number 2, what is the reality of the ruh, of the soul? وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. What is the reality of the ruh? And thirdly, what is the incident and what are the details of that man who ruled over the east and the west, i.e. Dhul Qarnayn. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. So these were the 3 questions, and I said only a prophet will be able to guide you to the answers. So these 2 came to the Prophet ﷺ and they posed all 3 questions. Those individuals that ran to a cave, the man that ruled over east and west, and the ruh. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, of course, he never declared any knowledge of his own. When these 3 questions were posed, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I will tell you tomorrow after revelation and wahi is sent down upon me. And one lesson for us here, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it so happened that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not say, Insha'Allah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not say, Insha'Allah. That Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when revelation comes tomorrow, I'll tell you. Inshallah slipped the mind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing this for a lesson for you and I. It so happened the next day that revelation did not come down. The 3rd day, revelation did not come down. 4th day, no revelation. 5th day, 1 week, 2 weeks, no revelation. Now the mushrikeen, the disbelievers are rejoicing. And they are saying that we told you that this man is na'udhu billah a liar. Where's the answers? Okay, 2 weeks have passed, there have been no answers. And after a period of 15 days passed, half a month, 15 days passed, Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam, he came down with Surah Al-Kahf, in which there is an indication to saying Insha'Allah, which we will touch upon when we get there Insha'Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam revealed, according to many mufassirin, the entire surah in one go. And this surah had all 3 answers with detail, okay, respective detail according to the topic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down detail to the answers of all 3 questions. So the beginning part of the surah, okay, after the introduction, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the people of the cave. Thereafter in the middle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the soul. And towards the latter part of the surah, towards the end of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Dhul Qarnayn. And inshallah, from the next session, we'll actually start on the verses of Surah Al-Kahf and trying to deduce lessons from there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the tawfiq to understand and practice upon the glorious Quran. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.